Welcome back, crafters. I hit a moment, and I want to share that moment with you. Sometimes when you're in the middle of crafting and you're midway through a project, you might have feelings of doubt. Moments where you're like, I don't know if this is working, or I think this sucks. And these self-defeating thoughts can sometimes manifest in a way that makes you basically abandon a project. Not throw it away, but just like not finish it, right? So a little truth here, I've had those moments before. You know, not every project seems like it's working out, and sometimes you're like, do I really want to finish it? And I'm having one of those moments. Now, at first glance, we might look at this table full of terrain and say, Bill, what? Don't quit now. It's looking good. It's coming together. But there's like this part of me that's like, is it though? Kind of, I don't know. So let me share my inner feelings with you about this. Because part of the reason for doing these longer form crafting videos is really to get into the process. I could produce these like I have my other crafting videos where it's just really fast-paced and short, sweet, edited tutorials. But I want to talk about the process too and some of the mental and emotional components. So remember when I did those striations in that really vibrant yellow, and they were too yellow? They looked like things that were man-made, not natural. So then I did a wash over the whole thing. Now I like the wash. It dirtied it up quite a bit. But it didn't quite finish muting those striation lines, so I went over them with orange. They're better, but I still don't like them. Don't know what I'm going to do with that. I got to think on that. But right now I'm just having those doubts, those doubts in the process. Wanted to share that with you. Now, over here, I added some very faint striation lines. They might be too hard to see, so I'll put them over here. What I did was I added these faint striation lines in like kind of an orange. And I feel they give texture without overdoing it. So they're also more like curved and natural and stuff. But basically, in terms of thought process, this is where I'm coming into that doubt. Like I should never have done the striations, But here's the thing, people. I'd be a hypocrite if I just quit now. Because throughout this whole series, I've said over and over and over again, not to worry about failing. And don't worry, if you mess up, because you can't really mess up in crafting because you just paint over it if you don't like it. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. I want to keep it real, and that's why I'm going to do what it takes to finish these pieces with you. So join me in this journey. We'll make it through. We'll do it together. First thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to procrastinate. I'm going to put these pieces where I painted striations over here for now, because I didn't do any striations with these. Now, I did that wash, and I love that top surface. See how the yellow wash kind of filled in all these pockmarked spots, kind of like sand. So I did a light wash, and I really love how that turned out. So I want to do the highlights on this piece. And in a lot of ways, the highlights are done from that light wash, but I want to do a dry brush. So got my trusty brush. And I think I'm going to go with a muted kind of khaki for this. So I'm going to spill it out here and just see what we got. Now it's a very light drying color, this khaki. It'll be like a sand. So it kind of, I don't know if it's going to be too light, but what I'm going to do is just brush off a lot of this paint on here. And I'm going to run it along like I've done with the other things, just very gently along the outcroppings of reality. And the dry brushing, the highlighting, goal is very simply to just make some depth, you know, as the sun's hitting this day after day, season after season, year after year, millennia goes by, and, you know, where do we see these stones getting bleached by the sun, by the power of the desert sun? Is that on our own world? Is it in some fantasy role-playing game world, or is it some far-off planet that your characters have discovered in your sci-fi setting? Maybe it's hundreds of years in the future of planet Earth after an apocalypse. So dry brushing's coming together there. That's making me happy. I'm going to keep that going. Just kind of against the grain. I'm doing, this is like a super light dry brush coat. Just hitting those edges, man, because I don't want to overdo this. Don't want to overdo it. So, you know, I'm gonna move that guy out of the way. All right, so hope you can all see here, but same thing there, just easy across the sides there. And when I'm done with the sides, I'm going to go back around and do the edges for sure. I want to bring out the lip, you know, along the top there and just reveal it to anyone at the table so they can see that. But this kind of highlight, instead of using a white, it's a little bit warmer, you know, because it's kind of a beige, a little bit sandier, which I think is kind of more of the vibe I'm going for. These are supposed to be in the desert after all. Okay, so now I'm going to go just along the edge, and I'm going to pull up. And in this case, it's okay if you get a couple paint strokes that hit more than just the edge. In other words, if the paint comes in a little bit. Because what we're doing is also kind of creating a sand coat, I guess you could call it. Like just, you know, where sand builds up along the edges of things before it blows down. And, you know, it's funny because these are more rock formations than they are sand dunes. But if I'm playing a game and I stack them up and I tell my players, all right, you know, imagine that these are sand dunes because we're in the desert. There are different kinds of desert settings. There are desert settings that are very rocky with kind of spiky cacti and other, you know, desert surviving plants. And then there are desert settings that are, you know, maybe in the Middle East or Africa that have just lots of sand, you know, and fewer rocks, just more of those smooth desert sand things. And this is, I guess, more of a rocky terrain kind of environment. So, but, you know, there'd be some sand mix in here too, even in a rocky kind of environment. So, but the reason why I'm doing this brushing in part is to give a little more depth across the top too, because the top's kind of purposefully playable. So I'm almost kind of highlighting across the top, but I'm working my way in from the edge. This is a super dry brush, right? But I'm just pulling in from the edge to the middle, across the top of my terrain. I don't know if you could see that, but it kind of, what it does is it kind of looks, I don't know, it gives the illusion of maybe motion, like where you could see the trail of where sand kind of has blown through over the ages. And it blends too. It blends the edges very nicely so that they're not quite as stark. It blends those edges. I don't have the self-doubt about this piece that I do the other pieces. feel like this piece will play really well on the table. I'm very confident about this piece. The other pieces, not so much. Kind of feeling the pain. Okay, so I have pulled in so much of this that there's barely any paint on this brush. So now I'm just kind of doing the next layer, just going from each of these spots sporadically and bringing it in to the center. It's like an overcoat of lighter color, okay? Just kind of pulling out the textures and the highlights and all that stuff. All right. I'm happy about that. Feeling good about that, guys. I dig that. Look at that. Got some real nice kind of colors and textures there. Feel like that'll play really well on the table. Look, there's that piece that started it all. Remember when I was like, hey, I wonder what would happen if I took my key and I dug this out. Well, there's what happens. Looks kind of cool. You know, and in hindsight, that might be the technique down the line to create the striations that I want. Just get thinner pieces and make those cuts and then rearrange them and glue them together. And yeah, but we'll see. So this guy's good. Let's go hit the big boy here while I still got this highlight stuff. Okay, got some really great textures along here. So again, I'm just going to drag along the top, pick up those cut lines and those textures. Man, this one is a showpiece, I'll tell you what. I think I knew even when I was cutting it. You know, I found this big triangle scrap piece and I was like, oh, this will be cool, like a whole ridge, you know. It's big enough where you could have something set up on top of it, or you could just use it as a, you know, a structural piece on the table. But that looks really cool so far. I'm digging that. Digging it. Okay, let's go across there. Yeah, so it just kind of mutes the color while it brings out some of those highlights there. But this is still really a vibrant piece. I was worried about using this much red, but that top, once I did that light wash, that top was just totally brought to life there. Because you got nice dark browns, you got some red stuff in there, you got some orange highlights, and then this is like the finishing touches, you know what I mean, man? So I'm just gonna nail this up right good here. So this piece is, this side, look at all those textures on that side. Look at all those textures. You know, so just drag that across, just real light, man, just real light, just to get the tops of those things, you know. You put the paint on, you wipe the paint off, put the paint on and you brush it all around. You do the dry brush highlights and it makes you feel happy. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, man. I always get excited when I get to the dry brush because I feel like it's just finally coming together. Finally coming together. Yes. This corner is a showpiece. I can't mess that up, so I'm just going to go real light at first. I could always add more, but I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to mute my range here because I've got some really nice darks and some bright brights. So I'm just gonna let that find its way. Yeah. Yes, man. Yes. All right, now I got this big last stretch. So I can get my paint on here and wipe my paint off. And then just start dragging across there. Dragging across there. Your mind begins to relax. Your mind begins to relax and you just get into the zone. Okay, now what I want to do is sort of like I did with that other one. I want to just draw the dry brush in. I want to follow kind of the lines of the outcroppings and draw the dry brush in from the edges. But I don't want to overdo it, guys, because I don't want to lose my cool reds and browns. So I'm just kind of, I'm extending it. That's a good word. I'm extending the highlights along the edges and into the top of the piece. Extension. This almost has a volcanic rock look to it, you know what I mean? I need a little more paint for the highlights. I need a little more paint to finish up. I need a little more paint to do this rocky thing. Gotta get some more paint and fill it up on my brush. Do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do. I gotta get a little more paint on my brush. I gotta get a little more paint on my brush. Well, I need a little more paint to put on the last coat on this thing. Need a little more paint up on my brush. Yes, the sands of time have lightened up and bleached across the sunny, rocky desert plain. You gotta know when to stop. Sometimes you overdo it as a crafter. You ever been there? You know, where you just keep doing more and more, and then you're like, I overdid it. I don't want to neutralize it, you know what I mean? This is a beautiful thing. Look there, behold this top. The dynamic range on this top. You got these dark parts, you got these very vibrant red parts, you got parts that got filled in by my wash, little pockmarked top with sandy yellow in it, and then you've got the highlights, this beige, which incidentally almost becomes like a gray, you know? I don't know if that's too gray or not. Self-doubt and worry. Okay, so people, these are gonna sit over here. I gotta stew on it. This. This. If I just highlight it, it's going to lose some of its specialness, some of its brown and orange. What if I took some King's Gold and I threw just a drop of it? Oh, that was 2 drops. Shit. I took a drop of that, but then I countered with that with a little more of my beige. In other words, what if I warmed up this beige with a little more yellow, a little more gold, and then I use that as my dry brush mix? It almost has no effect, but the subtleties, people, the subtleties are where it's at. All right, so I loaded up my brush. Now I'm gonna wipe it off because of dry brushing. And I'm gonna go for broke. Say a prayer for me, people. Here it goes. Oh God, I'm so scared that I'm gonna screw it up. Okay, ready? Here we go. So this is the one where I did these orange striations. So what I'm trying to do is highlight, but not kill the orange striations. So I'm going really really soft across everything. I feel like maybe it's working. I don't know. I'm feeling like pretty positive right now about this. It kind of works. It kind of works. What do you think? If you're watching this video and you're thinking about commenting, comment wherever you want. Comment as often as you want. Because I check the comments on my videos. I'm pretty active. I say I would have a good response rate. You know, I take criticism because I'm not a master. I'm still learning. So if you've got ideas for different ways to approach things, share them. I'm definitely someone who heeds the advice of others, especially people with more artistic skill or crafting knowledge. You know, or if there's somebody out there in the community who might have a cool technique that you want to share with me, share that too. And who knows, if I dig it, maybe I'll make a video about it, you know, and I'll credit you for the suggestion if I could find you. Okay, so wow, gosh, I feel better about this. That highlight is just an amazingly powerful thing. I want to do the same thing that I did here. I'm just going to drag the brush in from the edges. I feel like this is just giving me just the kind of nice edge highlight, and it's kind of feathering in, kind of a gradual transition of feathering in this color palette, you know, without muting it too much, because I like the vibrancy. I set out, when I did this desert thing, I'm like, the cool thing about desert rocks is that they're vibrant, you know, they're not just sandstone. They're oranges and reds and, you know, deep colors. Like I think that was, you know, again, on my road trip to Vegas many, many years ago, that was an experience that I'll never forget, in part because it was so foreign to me as somebody from the flatlands of Illinois to see that kind of stuff. I mean, look at our country. Look at, you know, this whole continent. North America has just got such a beautiful variety in it, you know. Should be grateful for that. All right, you know what? I feel much better. I started this video out with a lot of doubt, self-doubt and worry. And as this is coming together and I'm seeing these guys together, I'm like, I could build so many cool things with this. I'm feeling good, people. We can do this. So now this is going to be the test, because these are the really vibrant striations. And I don't think a highlight coat's going to fix it. So what I might have to do, I kind of hope I don't have to do this because it's going to extend the whole video, but I might have to do the highlights, wait until that dries, and then go back and do like a dark brown wash to mute it. God, that just makes more work, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So here are these highlights. Just going to hit them up, man. Just going to hit them up. Do 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 do. Boo do 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 do. Boo do 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 do. All right, well, even with the highlight, these stupid striation lines are still too like vibrant and unreal. Oh, I'm frustrated. But I gotta carry through the process. I can't be a hypocrite, so I won't quit. I'm gonna let this dry. Do these other ones, and I'll let those dry, and then we'll just come back, man. We'll come back. It's all right. It's all good. We'll come back after we let them dry, and we'll just give them a dunking. A good dunk in the dark brown wash, and just mute those ridiculous, stupid traffic lines that I painted on my rocks. Now, this one wasn't as bad. This one was the one where I did some orange striation lines, and I did them on curves. So I think this one might be good to go. But let me do the highlight. It's so much easier with small pieces like this, because then I could just do like my little flick dry brush technique across it, and it does a real nice job of picking up those highlights, and yet still maintaining the depth of shadow and all that stuff. I'm going to pull this in across the top like we did with the other ones. Oh, that's pretty. This little piece is making me happy. It's finishing up on a high note. Yeah, there we go, man. There we go. Okay, people. So let's take a look at this. Let's be critical. In the category of big guys, you got deep cut, and then you got, I don't know what to call this one, orange. So deep cut's got more of the red across the top. Orange has more of the orange and brown across the top. Deep cut's got the deep cut on the sides. This has more of just the regular lines with the orange striation lines. I'm gonna say I like them both for different reasons, but I like these both. I kind of like this one, but I'm glad that I did this. Remember when I was like, what would happen if, you know? I'm glad that I did this. Look at this cool discovery that we made. Fixing something by just destroying part of it and reinventing it, you know? That has a very Fight Club kind of tone to it. Now, Big Daddy Curve piece is, I love this piece. I love this piece. I love the murder red scene across the top. I love that red rocks vibe. I love the deep browns across the top. I love the edges because the highlights came out really nicely with that. Remember how I did like an orange-red medium coat underneath? It just came out very nicely. And this side too. Look at those, look at the cut lines and the variation in color there. You got some bright oranges there, you got some reds, some of that dark brown, the base coat coming through, and then this lighter beige coat to highlight it. So then between the three smaller ones, this one is my happy place because it's got dark, it's got red, it's got orange, it's got all the variety. And that's the one where I did the very subtle orange curved striation lines. They're more vibrant in certain places, you know, so it's got a little of everything. I like that. I don't think I have to do anything to fix that. And these two, you know, what can you say? I had some self-doubt. I just need to mute these, you know. Now that dry brush coat is done, so maybe we'll do it now. Why make another video when we could do it now? So here's where we're gonna go with this, guys. I'm going to take water and yellow, more water, more dirty water. Then I'm gonna brown it up. Oh, that might be too much, I don't know, we'll see. I wanna get this to be like mud, and then I'm gonna make a wash out of it, and I'm going to douse it over these pieces. Not over the tops. I liked how the tops worked out, just over the dum-dum striation lines that I made. So I'm loading up the brush. And what I'm going to do for this wash is drag the brush gently across the sides. Take some water and drag it again. Now a wash means just that. It's not meant to be a full coat of paint. It's literally just some watered down paint that you're going to let kind of drip off of your piece. Okay? Get some more wash mud there. Wash mud there. Water it down even more on the piece. It's going to take longer to dry this way, but you know, it's kind of like spraying like weed killer on your grass. You know what I mean? Like, it's a process. It takes a little while before all the weeds and the other stuff get off of your grass. Actually, that analogy makes no sense. Sorry, I'm dumb. Water it down. Okay, so I watered it down, and then I'm just going to kind of, gross, flick it off the sides. And then, just with the ever so slightest water, I'm just going to tap in, like I did before with the yellow wash, just across the top, because inevitably there will be some splotches there, and I want to muddy it down. All right, so those are going to have to dry, but the nice thing is that we can fix anything, guys. We can fix it. So that's what we're doing. These will dry, and then they'll be done. And you'll find out if they're finished when you see them used. So if you're one of the fans who has watched these crafting with pink foam videos, know that you will eventually see these pieces used on the table. Whether they're used in D&D with high school students, or the Bard's Tale, or other shows that we're involved in, will remain to be seen. But rest assured that you'll see them on the table, and hopefully they'll be used to a nice dramatic effect. So that will conclude desert rocky terrain, desert sandy rocky terrain. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something from the process, because remember, it's not just about the end product. It's about the process, and it's about why we do the crafting. So hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell to let you know when we have new videos coming out. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in and sharing in this experience with me. And you have a great day, weekend, or whatever you got going on. Peace out. Hey, hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure that you subscribe, and don't forget to press the little bell icon so you get those notifications. And you know what? While you're at it, check out some of the other cool video content on the channel. I'm sure you'll have a blast.